Since it's been about 6 months since I covered a Stellaris dev diary, instead of covering any specific dev diary, I'm just going to be covering the general state of development, what has happened over the past couple of months, and what it is looking like is going to happen pretty soon. The chances are the reason you are here is that you felt the development has slowed or stagnated on Console Edition, and this is somewhat true. For almost the entire lifetime of Console Edition, it has released expansions faster than they were released on PC. The average time between releases is about 100 days on console, while sitting at 150 on PC. However, as of late, console releases have been slowing. Up until Necroids, Synthetic Dawn was the only expansion that took longer to release on console than on PC. This has not been the case recently, as the last 3 releases took longer to release on console than they took to release on PC, and the next expansion that should drop, Toxoids, is already over the time it took to release on PC. For those who have only played on console, these wait periods must seem dramatically larger, as they are used to waiting only 2/3 as long as PC players, and to go from that to waiting longer than PC players will make releases feel like an eternity. On top of this, after some reorganization of staff by Paradox, there has been rampant speculation with a lot of conclusions being jumped to, so let's cut through the fat and see what's actually going on. Back in April, some information came out showing that there was some restructuring being done by Paradox involving the closure of an office. There were some staff at that office working on Stellaris. However, there has been no sign that this seriously delayed or impacted development. The only staff at risk were some members of the custodian team who largely work on bug fixes and balance. Most of this team wasn't based at that office, however, and there has been no sign that the custodian team's work has been impacted by this over the past several months. I put out a community post when this information came out to clarify that this wouldn't impact Console Edition in any serious way, as Paradox doesn't technically develop the Console Edition, but rather a third-party studio named Tantalus does. While this was accurate at the time, this is no longer the case. This changed last month as Tantalus announced that Overlord marked the end of their involvement in the franchise. This provided more grounds than the reshuffling of staff that occurred back in April to speculate on the development of Console Edition, but surprisingly the community did not respond in the same speculative way as they did in April, and this was most likely due to the fact that this information was directly provided by Tantalus and then commented on by Paradox staff, rather than found indirectly as in April. With this information being released, there was some conversation, as always on Reddit, where the community ambassador clarified that the development of Console Edition was not stopping and indicated that Paradox would be directly continuing the development of Console Edition rather than involving third parties. This was indicated but not strictly stated. Based off of what I've seen recently from dev diaries, this is most definitely the case and should be taken as good news, not so much bad news. The real question is, what's going on with all of these delays? As the delays started before Tantalus moved on from Stellaris and seem to have continued after they have left. As best as I can tell, there seem to be a few factors. The first being that Tantalus is a third-party studio, and communication between teams within the same company is always going to be easier and faster than communication between teams of 2 different companies, no matter how efficient they are. This could have been a factor, but I don't believe this would have been the main factor for the recent delays in development. The simple fact is these delays should not be surprising anyone. When the Console Edition released, PC had been in development for 3 years. Subsequently, Console Edition was 3 years behind development-wise, back when it released in 2019. 4 years later, here in 2023, when Overlord released on Console Edition, it was only 10 months behind the PC release. As console gets closer and closer to parity with PC, it's just a simple fact that development will take longer. Console Edition, when porting the expansions, does not port the version of the DLC at release, but rather what it is at the end of its development. This is why Console Edition feels like it doesn't get as many updates as PC. A lot of its big structure updates, their overhaul updates where they change how the overall game works, balancing, bug issues, get bundled with the DLC releases, making for less updates but a much quicker development time. This is very easy to do when you are 2 or 3 DLCs behind PC, as you can effectively go in and quote-unquote copy their homework by just seeing where they went and implementing what they ended up landing on. And you'll notice that as the gap of DLCs missing on Console Edition began to shrink, development times got much longer. When Necroids came out on console, the only DLC that PC had that console didn't was Nemesis, and this was right when the big delays in development started to occur. Only after console had caught up to the point that they were only 1 or 2 DLCs behind PC did the time between releases start to get much longer for Xbox and PlayStation. Now, what I'm about to say is entirely speculative, and it should not be taken as anything past that, but with Tantalus no longer involved in the project, and both console and PC under the same management development-wise, not just finance-wise, these delays should go back down, and console could get pretty close to catching up to PC. It would be very difficult for release parity to occur, so I wouldn't expect that to, but I could see releases on console lagging PC only by a couple of months being possible. There is no way to know, and we'll find out over the course of the next year, as we will get to see what development looks like with console being strictly developed by Paradox. Now that I've covered what's been going on the past couple of months, what's going to happen in the next few months? Based off the comments made in the last dev diary for console, I would expect there to be more significant news in the next month or so, and we should be hearing from the development team late summer, early fall, so in the next month or so. They also confirmed that they've been working on the expansion pass for quite some time, and this inclines me to believe that we should be seeing Toxoids at a minimum releasing before the end of the year. However, personally, I don't believe that the First Contact DLC will be releasing this year, but I would expect it early 2024. Granted, this is based off of past development rates, which could change as the game is now being developed by Paradox versus Tantalus. If you want to stay up to date, I will be covering all of the dev diaries as they release, so make sure to subscribe and hit the little bell so you get notified when these come out. But more importantly, if you could leave a comment down below and press the like button so that YouTube knows to recommend this video so that other people can stay up to date.